Hello everyone, I am Duke and in today's video we're going to explore each of the heretic lands we know of so far and look at how and when they were captured by the heretic legions. In some instances the heretic occupation in the lands or seas of a region have been short-lived, but in others their grip is so strong it has held on for hundreds of years. If you're new to Trench Crusade or its lore, then welcome, and for my returning viewers, drop me a like or share this video with a friend. Since the opening of the Hellgate in 1099, the Levant and the region surrounding Jerusalem have been under constant heretic control, seemingly without interruption. While it is true that the legions of Hell's Third Circle were responsible for capturing many of these lands during 1101's Year of Three Battles, it is the heretics who are credited with keeping hold of them. It is said that a third of humanity fell to the corrupting influence of the Hellgate upon its opening, and there are many cities and towns that now play host to long-established bloodlines of these original traitors. Within the heretic lands beneath blackened, smog-choked skies, factories crafted from flesh and metal churn out endless munitions, war machines, and bestial constructs for their war effort. At their marketplaces, captives are sold into service as wretched to court and heretic legion warbands, alongside human flesh being traded by the pound in infernal flesh markets. At the base of golden calf altars or infernal idols, firstborn children are cast into the flames, their suffering feeding the demon lord that the idol is dedicated to, in the hopes of granting boons to those who offered them in supplication. Great cities descend down into vast pits, inverted pyramids and towers wrought of iron and black stone plunging their depths, and great cathedrals to the princes of hell hang from archways made of volcanic stone. In the lowest reaches of these pits, captives are sacrificed over many weeks, sliced and tortured by basalt knives, while inverted crosses crucify the condemned. All of these cities that once stood as homes to the faithful and the pious are turned to corruption and dedicated to bringing down the throne of heaven. The lands of the heretic legions are a damned place of suffering for many of the mortals who reside within them. Those born into the life of the heretic are granted no more favour than the slaves of the court and must earn their right to be granted power or status here. While the lands of the Levant are the most prominent place we see the heretic legions operate from, they have captured many other lands and brought cities and nations to heel for their demonic masters. While the Trench Crusade timeline by Melchior Gessel is our only current source for what the heretics have been doing over the last few hundred years, and the map only shows scattered nations under their control, it is clear they have not been idle. Mammon sent his forces on a campaign of conquest against the nations of northern Africa. The Knights of Avarice and the 10 golden horns of Mammon stormed through Egypt to plunder its riches. This was in the earliest days of the Great War, and as the faithful were reeling from the brutal assaults in the Levant, the Mamluk orders of Egypt and the surrounding nations valiantly tried to hold back the tide. As the pressure from Mammon's assault grew, the Mamluks were forced into fighting guerrilla warfare, pushed underground to fight for the freedom of nations they once ruled over. To this day, the Mamluk bloodlines live on. As peerless warriors, they can sometimes be seen accompanying warbands of the Iron Sultanate or faithful nations, but many remain hidden, fighting on in lands lost to their ancestors centuries before. The great tragedy of Egypt and the Mamluks is that their lands were not even the main goal of Mammon's campaign of conquest. For while they were certainly rich, the Prince of Greed craves far greater prizes in Mali and Axum. The capture of Egypt was an unfortunate byproduct of simply being in his way. Around 1573, Great Byzantium fell to the forces of the heretics as they laid waste to the ancient city. This was a great loss to the servants of God, as Byzantium held ancient knowledge and advancements now lost to the flames of conquest. The House of Wisdom were able to retrieve the secrets of Greek fire from the ruins, its chemical composition a closely guarded secret by the Sultan's alchemists, and used as fuel for the devastating flame cannons of brazen bulls. Given the knowledge and secrets held within Byzantium's ruins, while it is noted as being destroyed and under heretic control, the ruins are regularly explored by either side for any edge they may glean from its husk. The great push of the heretic forces that caused Byzantium's destruction was only held back by the valiant efforts of the Sacred Order of the Dragon. As the heretics attempted to storm Wallachia, the Knightly Order stopped them in their tracks, impaling 1 million heretics in Wallachia's foothills as a warning against further incursion. Across the Mediterranean, the heretics made a push towards the heartlands of the faithful, and the newly formed heretic navy was able to capture Gibraltar in 1666. With the heretic navy only recently being created, it used the element of surprise to launch its attack and ultimately bring Gibraltar under heretic control. From here, this gave the heretics a staging ground to launch raids and attack the coastlines of Europe and open the Atlantic to their reach. No longer would the heretic legions need to face the might of New Antioch to bring the horrors of war to the nations of Europe. With this vital base of operations, they could traverse the seas and attack the heartlands of the Church, seemingly at will. In 1670, the heretic navy gained a foothold in the Atlantic and they began to harass the shores of England and the coastlines of northern Europe. To answer this threat, the Crown of England commissioned the fortress of the White Cliffs to be constructed at Dover. However, in 1805, the supremacy of England's navy was challenged by the heretic navy. Under the command of Admiral Ranger, the Battle of the Bloody Cliffs was one of the most devastating days in the history of the English Crown. Their navy was shattered, and Admiral Nelson was slain in a heroic last stand between his flagship and Admiral Ranger's. As the wreckage of their command ship sunk beneath the waves, the English fleet fled to Portsmouth for repair, and the heretics gained supremacy in the region. The naval supremacy of the heretics in the Atlantic has only become more problematic for the faithful in recent years. Since 1805, the only hope of the faithful regaining control of the seas rests on the newly constructed moving fortress of Britannia, a vessel like no other on the seas. No heretic vessel can match the moving fortress, and it has the firepower and support of 1/3 of England's navy as its escort. When the moving fortress goes to war, nothing stands in its way, and while it may be the best hope for the faithful gaining control back of the seas, it selfishly is held back by the Crown of England to maintain the sovereignty of their soil. Prior to the moving fortress of Britannia being constructed, the heretics were a plague on the shores of England, Alba, and Eire. In fact, it was through the cunning plans of the heretic sea lord Zakur that Eire was overrun in 1807. Negotiating a pact between his forces and the Cult of the Moon, the followers of the Path of the Beast, the lands of Eire were ravaged. At Lake Polynephrine, a dormant hellgate was ripped open by an infernal ritual, and the Sea Lord and his forces even defeated King Niall in battle. With much of Eire held by the heretics, the nation was thought to be lost forever to the faithful, and on many maps between 1807 and 1890, it would have been marked as heretic lands. Luckily though, in 1890, Queen Brigid rose to the throne of Eire, and the embattled nation that struggled on against its occupation was finally liberated with the combined cunning of the Queen and her consort Donal. Clever use of the ancient Fianna after rescinding the historic ban on them, and the uniting of Eire's remaining lords and their armies gave the faithful here a fighting chance to survive and overcome their occupation. But this would not have been possible without the masterful feint of Queen Brigid in her negotiations with the faithful nations. While New Antioch had sent the Duke's personal guard to assist Eire, and the Crown of France supplied them aid, the Queen needed the help of the Supreme Pontiff and the wider support of the faithful nations. With this not being forthcoming, the Queen got the Supreme Pontiff to agree to the symbolic gesture of sending a single soldier to aid them. With this agreed, Queen Brigid named the paladin Onsheish as this single champion, and alone, carrying the banner of Staragram, Onsheish assailed the Polynephrine Hellgate. As the Fianna launched a daring raid on the Hymn of Obscenity, Zakur's flagship, the nation waited with bated breath. As the ammo stores of the ship were set aflame and the Sea Lord was killed, Onsheish emerged from the collapsing Hellgate. Battered, bruised, his armour torn and missing an eye, Paladin had succeeded. Shortly after this, Eire was once again freed from heretics' hands and became a bastion of the faithful once more, although the lack of aid from their neighbours in England has not gone unnoticed here, and is the cause of some friction between the two nations even now. Aside from their behemoth-class warships, what makes the heretic navy so dangerous is their ability to strike at the faithful at a moment's notice. In 1866, the Demon Marbas taught heretic scientists the secrets of submarine technology, and these dangerous new weapons were put to good use in 1870. As the heretics' modern submarine fleet set out from Gibraltar, they caused widespread famine across the faithful nations by harassing shipping lanes and merchant vessels. But in 1872, the heretic navy caused another great blow to the faithful Storming the city of Rijeka, the heretics and their naval fleet were able to capture the city and fortify it as another stronghold for their forces. From here, they are able to send raids and launch full scale invasions across mainland Europe. To assist one of these large scale invasions, the heretics unleashed a shadowy weapon from the depths of the Archdevil Belith's domain. In 1894, Cain, Haman, and Barabbas, three of Hell's most elite death commandos, assassinated the Supreme Pontiff, the High Prophetess Eire, and the Holy Roman Emperor. This threw the faithful into turmoil and allowed an opening for the forces of Hell's Seventh Circle and a huge vanguard of tanks to launch simultaneous raids across the Levant and Europe. Throughout the Great War, the heretics have been instrumental in capturing and holding ground for their demonic masters, and this shows little signs of changing anytime soon. In one of their most recent assaults against the faithful, they fought a bloody stalemate at the Battle of Cordoba in 1910. The ancient city was bombarded by the heretic artillery, but their ground troops ultimately failed in their attempts to push on into Hispanic nations. It is evident then, even in this brief exploration of the heretic legions, that they are certainly able to be defeated, but remain one of the most persistent threats to the faithful in the world of Trench Crusade. While the war for creation rages on, and it is fought for the machinations of archdevils or the designs of the divine, it will ultimately be decided by the mortal forces at their command. In the present day setting of 1914, the faithful seem to own the vast majority of the lands of Europe, but the heretics are often rewarded with long lives. Their machinations and long laid plans of conquest frequently bear fruit. If the faithful are to win the war for creation, the battle will be anything but easy, and each piece of ground they lose to the power of the heretic legions and its navy is one more step towards the ultimate victory of hell. Which brings our exploration of the heretic lands and their conquest to an end for today. Whose side are you on in the war for the Trench Crusade? Let me know if you are part of the Faithful Nations or the Heretic Legions in the comments below. To continue exploring the Heretic Legions, you can find out more about their forces by clicking the video link to your left. Alternatively, to explore more lore, including for some games like 1490 Doom and Conflict 47, click the video link to your right. For discounts on your hobby supplies, check out my affiliate links in the video description, and with that, I'll say thank you for watching, and I'll see you all soon.